Hi, I'm Ryan Szymanski, curator for Battleship New Jersey Museum and Memorial. And today we've got another video in what's become a series of videos on small arms on the ship, and specifically in lucky number 7. This is the 1911, which was returned to the battleship earlier this year. We've done a number of videos about it, but the quick recap is this is one of 28 1911s that was issued to the ship, as opposed to the Marine detachment on the ship, but to the ship specifically in 1983, shortly after she's recommissioned. This weapon serves with the ship right up until 1987. It seems like during that Australia cruise, 4 of these guns from ship's company are transferred over to the Marine detachment, and so this serves with the ship's Marine detachment up until 1990, when the Marine detachment is disbanded for the battleship shortly before she's decommissioned the following year. This gun goes back into the federal inventory, and then eventually, by the beginning of 2025, it has been transferred out of government use to the civilian marksmanship program. Good friend Andrew, who works with the Archival Research Group, a group that researches historic firearms, and he specifically specializes in the first half of the 20th century firearms, so primarily World War vintage firearms. He was the one who was able to track down this gun to the civilian marksmanship program and make the connection for us to ask for it to be donated to the museum. It has been transferred out of government use to the civilian marksmanship program to be sold to a private buyer. And when we were able to tell the CMP that the serial numbers on this weapon match serial numbers for weapons that were on the ship, they donated it to the museum. So this is the only original Battleship New Jersey firearm that the museum currently has. Now, we put a list of the serial numbers up in a previous video. There will be a link to that down below. So we did a couple of videos, one about all the types of small arms that were on board after we found the documentation, and one that had specifically serial numbers for these 1911s. Now, in theory, the civilian marksmanship program is sending you fully functioning firearms. They are treated that way. They have to be shipped through a gun dealer. You need appropriate licensing to acquire one, but they're still shipped as is, where is. So if this went into the inventory non-functioning or somehow deteriorated while it was in the inventory, and remember this has potentially been sitting in a warehouse since 1990, by then the Beretta M9, the Beretta 92, was already adopted as the standard service handgun and had replaced the 1911 or was in the process of replacing it. So this might not have been used after it was on New Jersey. We don't 100% know yet. So the big question was, does this work? And last week we tested that to find out. Spoiler alert, it is a fully functioning firearm. It worked almost flawlessly. We put 200 rounds through it, and we had 2 failures while we were doing that. So 99% functionality. The third shot that we took, the round didn't feed properly and instead went straight up and like stovepiped, which is an interesting malfunction. But again, the gun had been pretty dry, hadn't been shot in a while, so it had that failure then. And then I think it was on the last magazine, right at the end, it had a failure to extract a spent casing, and again, the casing pulled out partially and then got stuck in the ejection port here. So 2 failures out of 200 rounds, and it wasn't expensive ammo. It was pretty cheap range ammo. I'm pretty happy with, for a weapon which is stamped here, U.S. Army 1943. So this handgun is fully as old as Battleship New Jersey, and it still functions. So in this video, I wanted to, one, show that we actually use this, and two, talk a little bit about the philosophy behind using it or not. It is definitely worth having a conversation in the museum community about whether you use your artifacts. Use of the artifacts is consumptive. The more you use a thing, the more likely it is to wear out, to break, to no longer be functional. So this is one of those arguments that is very, very common, especially with older objects like this. Now, the Battleship isn't ancient, but it's not new either. So it's somewhere in that middle where there is still functionality. So do you try and use it to preserve that functionality, or do you try to not use it to preserve that functionality? And there's a bunch of different thoughts on this. So for example, the Liberty ship John W. Brown still operates a lot of her equipment and gets underway and sails. Because they do that, they have a team of people who know how to sail that ship, who go through and maintain the equipment on there so that it stays fully functional. And they're constantly oiling it, running it, taking it apart, putting it back together. So, wow, they've maintained full functionality. Now, the other side of that argument would be, while doing that, original parts to that ship are breaking, and then they're replacing those with non-original parts, whether they're things they stripped off of other Liberty ships or parts that they made or other things. So it gets into the whole argument of, is it authentic? Is this piece, now that we've added it to the ship of Theseus, is it a part of the ship of Theseus, or is it still a separate, newer piece? And that's something that relates to this handgun here. The frame of the gun is original 1943. The slide is not. And so probably the springs and the other components of the slide are also replaced probably shortly before it's transferred to Battleship New Jersey. It's brought out, refurbished, and then sent to the ship. So during its service life, pieces are removed from this, swapped out of it. So this is not the original thing that was given to the Army in 1943. Likewise, Battleship New Jersey is the same way. Every time we change a light bulb, we're doing something like that. This ship sees a significant number of changes during her active career, and as a museum ship, between trying to replace things that are missing and fix things that are broken in systems that we need to use, like the plumbing system for the ship, the air conditioning system for the ship. Like we are constantly switching parts. And so you see these debates all the time: historic cars, aircraft. It's a huge conversation with aircraft. Do you fly World War II aircraft, or do you keep them in a hangar? And so the same with the firearm here. And I guess the point of this video is to say that you really need to consider objects on a case-by-case basis. There are some things that I would not use consumptively, and there are some things that I would use consumptively. So let's say that Battleship New Jersey had a really rare firearm on board. And I don't know of any non-standard ones off the top of my head, but let's say there was something rare, really limited production run, that's a caliber of gun that's not used anymore. It's something that there aren't spare parts for. I would likely not shoot that firearm. But this is a 1911. 1911 is possibly the most common weapon in the United States right now. It's probably on a top 10 list if it's not in that number one spot. So not only do spare parts for this exist, but there's also people around who know how to use this. Like on staff, I can think of at least 4 of us that have 1911s, and so people who already know how to take it apart, how to clean it, after use, how to replace parts, know sort of what the consumptive parts are. So for example, a spring like this one, this is when the gun is fired, the slide comes back and compresses the spring, and then the spring pushes the slide back into battery. This has a finite number of shots. It's something like 10,000 or something over the life of the gun. And then the spring loses a lot of its tension, will no longer function properly. You'll start to see a lot of failures. But getting a spring like this is really easy because there are so many 1911 manufacturers still putting parts out there. There's so many weapons out there that even if there was nobody making parts, I could take the spring off of my personal 1911, which is not historic at all, and put it in this to return it to full condition. And so because of that, we made the decision that, yeah, we're comfortable shooting this. We think that we can still preserve it for a very, very long time, probably for longer than the life of the ship itself, even if we do go out and shoot it. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, whether it is worth shooting or not. Right now, we've only put 200 rounds through it. I'm about to finish cleaning it, and then it will go back into being a safe queen. Do you think we should take it out and shoot it more often? Or do you think we should not touch it again and treat it like the valuable artifact that it is? Let us know in the comment section down below. My hope has always been that we acquire 2 of these, that we find a second one somewhere, and then one becomes the safe queen that we put behind plexiglass and people can look at, and one we could take shooting, potentially donate X amount of money, and we'll take the original gun to the range and put a box of ammo through it. But right now we've only got the one. So let us know in the comment section down below if you think we should ever use it again, or if we should keep it preserved as well as possible. And what you think about ships like John W. Brown, Red Oak Victory, or Jeremiah O'Brien that still get underway on their own, versus ships like New Jersey that do not operate that sort of equipment. Battleship New Jersey receives operating support from the New Jersey Department of State, as well as from a number of other businesses and private individuals like yourselves. We really appreciate your support. There's a link in the description below for ways you can donate to support the museum. You can also support us by liking, sharing, and subscribing so more people find about the museum and our channel, or by helping us find artifacts like this one. Thanks for watching.